Hello, second graders. My name is Miss Gurmrop, and I will be the teacher instructing your social studies mini lesson for today. Once you have your social studies notebook and a pencil in front of you, then you're ready to get started. Our objective for today states that I can identify why we have our own laws and government by understanding how our country became a democracy, so I can continue to learn how to be a good citizen. Take a look at the map presented on the screen. There's an arrow that points from or starts from California and stretches all the way over to our state of Maryland. I want you to think, would it make sense for the governor of California to make rules for the citizens of Maryland? So someone from another state would be making the rules for ours. Why or why not would that make sense? Pause the video and take a few seconds to think of your answer. Now look at this next map. The arrow starts at point 1, which is all the way over in the United Kingdom. And it stretches all the way over to, again, our state of Maryland. Now, would it make sense for the Queen of England to control what we do in the USA? Take a second and pause the video and think, why or why not would this make sense? Some of you may have thought it would be odd for someone outside of our state or even outside of our country to control what we do. The United States is not run by a king or a queen, and instead, the United States is run as a democracy. This means that the country is ruled by the people who can vote and help make decisions. Democracy is a kind of government. People in democracies make decisions by voting. In most democratic countries, citizens elect leaders to run cities, states, and the country.
How does democracy work?
In a democracy, citizens can give power and take it away. Citizens elect leaders to make decisions for all the people. Sometimes leaders make decisions voters don't like. Those leaders probably won't be elected for another term.
The first democracy.
The first democracy was formed 2,500 years ago in Athens, Greece. Greek men would vote for representatives in the assembly. No laws were passed unless the assembly approved them.
Democracy in the United States.
The U.S. government was formed in 1781. American colonists had just won independence from Great Britain. U.S. leaders wanted a government for the people and by the people. They set up a democratic government.
Get involved in democracy.
When citizens vote, they take part in a democracy. People can protest laws they don't agree with. They can also write to their representatives. In a democracy, every person's opinion matters. This relates to what we learned in our last social studies lesson. This means that when you're voting and you're making your voice heard, this is part of being a good citizen by participating in your democracy. The article I just read you mentioned the colonists. People known as colonists traveled from Great Britain, located in England, to what would become the United States. The colonists originally were controlled by the king back in England. For a period of time, our country only had these 13 colonies. I will introduce some resources that will explain how our country became a democracy, allowing us as citizens to vote and make decisions on laws in our government. As you listen to the resources that I will read and show you, I want you to answer these questions in your journal. Why were the colonists mad at the king? What did the colonists gain when the Declaration of Independence was signed? How did the colonists choose who would be the president? In 1776, in 1775, a long, long time ago, Great Britain ruled America. There was some trouble, though. The colonists were angry because they had no say when the British king gave orders 3,000 miles away. The king said, "Pay more taxes." Americans said no. Some even told the British, "It's time for you to go." The British marched from Boston. The farmers didn't run. In Lexington and Concord, the fighting was begun. In 1776, excitement filled the air, but what the colonists needed was a statement to declare. So their leaders met in Philly in June and in July. They picked some men to tell the king, we must be free. Here's why. The committee talked and wrote for days. At times it wasn't fun. Then Thomas Jefferson penned the words, and the declaration was done. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creators with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration of Independence said everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For this, men said, we'll fight. On the 4th of July in 76, after a long and heated mourn, the Declaration was approved, and the USA was born. Americans had their statement, ideals worth fighting for, a country of their very own, with liberty at the core. American forces continued to fight. George Washington was the chief. Through heat and cold, they won the war and felt a great relief. No longer ruled by a bossy king, on a distant British throne, Americans voted in '89 for a president of their own. Can you guess who won the vote? Can you guess who won the day? The winner was George Washington, number 1 in the USA. The war was over long ago. The US and Britain are now good friends. The Declaration still guides us all. The struggle for liberty never ends. If you still needed help answering these questions, on the next page in your playlist, after you finish this video, you will watch a YouTube video that continues to further your understanding of why the colonists left and how we became a democracy. Then you will answer your question on your final page in your playlist. Based on what you learned today, why did the colonists choose to live as a democracy instead of living in a country ruled by a king?